What's up, you guys? Angler Matt Outdoors here. Now in this video, I want to talk to the beginner fishermen, the guys that have maybe never done fishing before or have a little bit of experience. But I want to talk about, getting you from basically zero to catching fish, and talk about the gear that you're going to need, the gear that I recommend, how to get set up, how to get out there and just start catching fish right away. So I hope this will be just a good beginner's guide for you, and let's just jump right into it. And I'll start off with the rod and reel that I recommend. All right, so if you're a beginner fisherman, you're probably gonna be walking around on banks fishing from land. Maybe you have a kayak, something like that. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, to take into consideration is casting distance. Think about it. If you can only cast 20 feet, you can only get in front of so many fish when you're just walking around a bank, right? Then if you can cast 4 or 5 times that distance. Casting distance is key, okay? So I recommend a 7'6" medium power fast action rod. I love this rod right here. It's not super expensive. This is a TFO rod. It's great. It's got a short butt section too, so you actually get even more casting distance than a normal 7'6". It's light, it's got great feel. Another thing to take into consideration is some of those real cheap rods that, are basically presented as unbreakable. They don't really give you the best feel. And this video, I'm talking to the guys that want to use artificials. I'm gonna go over the #1 artificial that I recommend you start with. But this is just a good rod. I'll link it down below if you're interested. I might link 1 or 2 other rods that are solid if you're interested, but that's the rod that I recommend you start with. Now let's go over the reel. Okay, and of course we're talking about spinning tackle. Spinning tackle is gonna be the easiest way to get started. I'll show you how to use this a little bit at the end of this video. Reel wise, I recommend you go with a 2500 size reel. Spool it up with 10-pound braid. The 10-pound braid is super thin, super light. Again, talking about casting distance, it's gonna allow you to cast very far, but it's still strong. I mean, don't hear 10 pounds and think that's some light line that's gonna break easily. 10-pound line is solid. This is a Daiwa Fuego. This is more so for saltwater guys. This reel is sealed pretty good for saltwater guys. The Daiwa Legalis would be a really good one for if you're just gonna do freshwater strictly. I'll link a couple of these down below that I recommend. But 2500 size reel is gonna be nice and light. You don't need a super strong setup. I mean, this setup is, don't get me wrong, it's got a strong backbone. You can catch a ton of bass, redfish, snook, whatever. But this is a light setup that's gonna let you do a lot of things when you're starting out. This is a great setup for just kind of an all-around, setup. Just remember, 2500 size reel, 10-pound braid, 7'6" medium power rod. I'm not gonna talk about how to spool it. There's a lot of videos out there that talk about how to spool up your reel. I'll link a video down below on how to spool up your reel. So watch that after you're done watching this video. But I'm gonna move on now to the bait that I recommend you use. So let's get into that. All right, guys, before we get into the lure that I recommend you start using, what I forgot to mention was your leader line. So like I said, you got your 10-pound main line, but for fish like bass, snook, and even besides the fish, you're gonna be fishing around structure. So you need a leader line to basically get some abrasion resistance. The braid is super light, helps you cast very far. It's not very abrasion resistant though. So your leader line that I recommend, you can do pretty well with 20-pound test. If you're just walking around a pond or something, you can even drop down a little bit below that. But I'll show you an easy to do line the leader knot that's gonna help you put that leader line on. And you only need a small section of it. But here, I'll show you how to tie that on real quick here. All right, guys, so this is the uni to uni knot. This is an easy to tie knot to tie your leader to your main line. And like I said, this is 20-pound monofilament. You can get it at any tackle shop in your area. If you don't know, you can just ask the guy that works there. Now, take these lines, put them together like this. Hold them together. Take your braid and just make kind of a loop right there. Now wrap it around both lines like this, maybe 4 or 5 times. Like that. And you can kind of pull it tight a little bit there. Now do the same thing, but with the mono to the braided line. Make a little loop. This is probably the most common knot you're gonna see people use is the uni. It's been around forever. Let's do this maybe 4 or 5 times. that. Pull that together. Now you can wet both of those knots a little bit with your mouth and then just pull them together. And there you have it. Now you got the abrasion resistance of your mono here and the casting ability of your braid. Now you only need maybe 12 to 14 inches and you just cut it with scissors or pliers, whatever you have. These scissors right here are actually made for braid. They cut through braid really well. These are made by Rapala. I'll see if I can link some down in the description. Now I'm going to show you the lure I recommend you using and how to tie it on. So here we go. All right guys, now I'm going to talk about the #1 lure that I think you should start using and really get used to using, because you can catch almost any fish you can think of with this thing, whether it's bass or anything in the inshore saltwater side. Wherever you're fishing at, you're going to catch them with a soft plastic paddle tail on a jig head. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to use this thing, how to tie it up to your gear here. But mainly the big thing about this is all you got to do, it's so simple. Cast this thing out and just retrieve it straight back to you, and it basically looks like a little bait fish just swimming along, and you put this thing in front of a hungry bass or snook or redfish or something, it's going to get eaten and you're going to start catching fish right away. Okay, we have the right setup already. Now you got this is going to be your big weapon to really start catching fish. Now I'm going to show you how to rig it up. Check this out. It's pretty simple to rig up your paddle tail on a jig head. So you just take your jig head, line it up like this to see where that hook's going to be coming out at. So about right here. Okay, put it in through the middle right here at the tip and just kind of work it through to about where you saw it coming out at. About like right there, I think. And then just kind of scoot it up the shank of the hook there. And there you have it. For some of those that have kind of those pointers coming out on the collar there, for these Z-Mans at least, you're gonna need to kind of like pull this out and pull it over. But for other, normal soft plastics, if you're not using Z-Man, all you gotta do is just push it up, and there you have it. This thing's ready to go. It's just gonna cast and it's gonna run perfectly. You're gonna swim like that. And that's how you rig it up. Okay, so the one knot I want you to learn for using this thing is the loop knot. I can't remember the exact technical term for this, but basically you're gonna take your leader line here, make a loop like this, just like a little overhand, pull it, and I hope you can see that right there, that little loop we made. Now you're gonna go through the line tie of the jig head, and see that how the loop's on top. Now the side that's facing down, see how the loop's facing down on this side? Take your tag in, go up through that side, and then go around the leader twice, and then down through the side that's facing up. See that side's facing up? And then just pull it together like that, wet it. There's your loop knot. Now it's gonna let this bait kind of have a little more natural action. It's also gonna help you unsnag it from the bottom. Okay, oh, and also, I don't know if I went over this. Don't get too concerned about the lure color. This is kind of a more natural color. I really like this bait. Actually, this is the Z-Man Diesel Minnow 4-inch. I like these a lot because they're very durable. See how it's got that stretch to it? Sometimes the normal soft plastics, you'll maybe catch 1 or 2 fish before they get torn up. These things will last you a lot more fish. I'll link these down below as well. Maybe I'll link some jig heads down below as well. This is a 1/4 ounce jig head. I would say you're only really, if you're just fishing from the bank or from a kayak or something, you're typically just going to be using 1/8, 3/16, or a 1/4 ounce jig head. 1/4 ounce, of course, is for deeper water, 1/8 for shallower water, and that 3/16 is kind of that perfect middle ground. But again, this is a 4-inch. A 3-inch is a great size as well. 4-inch, I think, is kind of like the perfect size, kind of that perfect in between. 5 is starting to get a little bit bigger. 3 is perfect too, though. 3, you're going to catch a lot of fish. 4, you're going to catch a lot of fish. But let's move on, and I'll show you how to cast and how to retrieve this. All right, guys, so first things first, you're going to want to set your drag. So you look at your reel here. The drag is going to be on top. Go clockwise, tighten it up. And you want it to not too tight, but just enough to where it takes a little bit of force to pull it off the reel there. So if you hook a big fish, you can easily kind of pull some line off, without it. If it's too tight, the fish will break you off. So set that up. And then I'm gonna show you how to cast here. Now with the spinning rod, it's pretty easy. You just line up this line with your finger like this, put your finger on it, open the bail like that, and you're basically just gonna snap this thing, just kind of whip it forwards, and it's gonna cast pretty easily like this. Watch. I got a tree right behind me, so I gotta, just like that. And then once you get the bait out there, now this is why I recommend this bait, because it's so easy to use. All you gotta do is just retrieve it straight back to you. If you want it to go a little bit deeper, you can go rod tip down like this. If you want to bring it up a little bit, if it's dragging bottom or something, rod tip up and just straight retrieve it back to you, and you're gonna catch a ton of fish like this. Don't think that this looks too simple or too easy. It's not. This thing, it's gonna catch fish. All the action is in this bait. It's gonna be swimming around the water like that. It's gonna look like a little bait fish coming by, and as soon as the fish hits it, you don't even really need to set the hook. All you gotta do is just kind of like tighten up, just go with the fish, and they're gonna hook themselves basically, and then the fight is on. You're gonna reel that fish in. Now I'm just gonna go over some other little basic things and some other little things you're also gonna need to bring with you. So here's a couple of items that you're also probably gonna wanna get while you're out there fishing. All right guys, now that's pretty much it. Now, a couple of items you might want to look into getting to go with your fishing gear that are more, kind of necessary is a good pair of pliers. If you get a hook deep into a fish's gut, you need to kind of get in there. This is going to help you get that hook out. A fish with teeth, obviously, you don't want to get your hand in there. Get one that's a decent pair with a nice pair of cutters there. But you're probably gonna need another pair of cutters for braid specifically, because these cutters just aren't very good. Just a simple pair of scissors will cut braid, but some scissors are made by tackle companies specifically for braid. They just cut them like butter. I'll show you these right here. I showed these to you earlier, but these are made by Rapala. I'll see if I can list a couple of these down below, pliers and cutters. Both are pretty necessary, but I'm trying to make this list kind of as bare bones as possible. So just to recap, 7'6" medium fast action rod, 10-pound braid, 2500 size reel, okay, 3 to 4 inch paddle tail. We went over jig heads. We went over all the gear that you need. And really guys, it's all about just getting out there, finding structure. You can cast pretty much anywhere if you're on a pond or a lake or river, but fish like to hold the structure. We're fishing for species that are kind of structure oriented, ambush predators, okay? So cast around structure and just reel that thing straight back in, vary up the speed, give it a couple twitches here and there. It's gonna get hit, it's gonna get eaten, you're gonna catch a bunch of fish. But hey, that's really it guys. I'm gonna link all this stuff down below if you're interested in buying some stuff that are recommended by me. But besides that guys, hey, have a good one, tight lines, and thanks for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe if you wanna watch more kind of stuff like this, all right? Appreciate it.